work closely together with me, and we're working through all that. I mean, there is a lot to still work through. There's a little more time, with the way the portal sets up this year, but still, you're constantly building for the future, both with your team and with your staff.
Mark, to go back to recruiting for a minute, you all seem to be making a pretty big push into the junior colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Philosophically, what is the reason for that?
Well, sometimes at a junior college, they replace some of the high school, right? Because you get a guy with multiple years. Because sometimes with the free agents, so to speak, you don't want them all to be one-year guys, and so you'd like to have some multiple, some guys, they're a little more mature. They have some more football under their belt. We've seen more on tape, and you maybe feel a little more confident that they could come in and help you next year and have multiple years. So, and the free agent market is awfully expensive.
Mark, you were talking about Louisville's offense and prepping for that. And Jeff's kind of known as a gadget guy when it comes to some plays. What's your approach with the defense now that you're trying to hold together kind of patchwork with so many guys?
Well, I think, basically in a nutshell, to answer your question, is we have a lot of youth out there right now, a lot of guys with inexperience, and they're going to see a lot of things. They always just have to apply the defense. It's really impossible for us to create all the different gadgets or trick plays or things of that nature. You just have to apply your rules. And when young kids see things for the first time, sometimes it's like, yeah, I wish I could see that again. You know what I mean? But it'll be a while.
About the roster building stuff, how do you feel the relationship with JMI taking the collective stuff in-house in terms of the legitimate NIL clearinghouse stuff? How do you feel like that's going, and is that going to help?
Well, it'll help me, us tremendously, is the hope, right? So we need everybody to support that, and all of us as a university, all of our student athletes need that to work. And, for me personally, it, takes another job off my plate, so that in itself is enormous.
Coach, we're seeing across the sport and across other sports in college, active players kind of helping on the recruiting front, like, hey, as serving as a representative for the programs. Are you seeing that from your guys at all?
Always has, and always will. I mean, and our guys always help. They do that. They have done that for 13 years I've been here. They always host them, spend time with them, bring them in, introduce them, and they're going to tell you the truth about your program. So the players are one of the most important pieces.
Mark, stipulating that I'm sure the Yankees and Dodgers would like to have more money to spend. Everybody wants more.
You think they would?
Everybody wants more.
Mm-hmm.
Stipulating. Mm-hmm. Are you resourced enough to get done what you need to get done?
We're working on it hard. We are working hard. You know what I mean? The university and the administration, myself, JMI, everybody is working very hard to get this done. And that I really appreciate.
Have you had any trouble getting those deals through the clearinghouse? Has that been a problem so far for you all?
I think it's better that I stay away from that. I mean, in general, I think the clearinghouse is getting its footing, and there's a lot of latitude in there right now.
Mark, Ty leads the SEC in interceptions now. Can you just talk about what his season has been and the growth he's made?
Yeah, I mean, he's just a steady guy. I've said that how many times, if you go back to his freshman year and we're sitting in here talking about it, I talked about how his maturity, he was mature beyond his years, and he's kind of just stayed with that approach. He's a guy that works really hard. He practices really hard, and if he has any limitations, he makes up for it for how, his film study, how hard he works, and his preparation. He's also very high in tackles, because he's a sure tackler, and he's done a really nice job. I think he better thank Davern was it Grant? Grant better thank Grant for that one, right? I think you could give that one to Grant. Yeah.
We've asked you all about the offseason, but how much easier is it, or how does it help you if you can end the season with a win to go into all of this?
It definitely helps. I mean, I said that a week ago, and unfortunately, we didn't play very good and we lost. But it is important. As I mentioned, just with everything. The players work really hard. They want to get the results that they want, and this is a rivalry game, so it's important.
Mark, I know every team's different, but you came in this room after y'all lost to Louisville, and you said you were really disappointed kind of how the team played. Is that
To Louisville?
Louisville last year?
Last year, so, yeah.
So does that make, extra, I don't want to say motivation, but extra, get that bad taste out of your mouth, I guess?
I really, without skirting the question, I mean, yes, but there's so much, you know what I mean, that has happened between now and then, and it feels like so long ago, but yes, it's important. You know what I mean? Like, when you go back and have to watch the tape and all that, yeah, I mean, it definitely is not a good feeling, but, for us, it's always that week to week, you know what I mean? It's pretty easy for me to compartmentalize things, you know what I mean? And it's pretty easy just to be really excited and motivated on a Monday for this week, right? Because last week's gone. Let's just, look for solutions moving forward. So, but it is definitely a piece of it. You can't ignore that, so.
You talked about your guys always showing up for work on Monday. Mm-hmm. When you get beat like that, is it kind of good to be able to get back and just move forward from it?
Without question. And, when we have done that, right? I mean, again, you play some really good football teams, and you're going to have some bad days. And, the Georgia game, we respond, played well at Texas, come up short, but play our tails off. The Tennessee game, I mentioned how, hard, how bad we felt that day, and bounce back and play very good the next week at Auburn and put everything into it. So, that's what's important to me, that the team responds, they prepare, we as a staff give them the best plan, and then you go give it everything you have. And the results are the results, but it means as much to me with how we do it and how we prepare, and what the players are doing, and they've done things, the right way in that department. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, we want to play better. We want the results to be there. I mean, we need them to be. But how we handle our business is super important.
Mark, De'Veron Rayner had 15 tackles. Seems like he's sort of taking it up a notch down the stretch.
Very much. Played very well. Just in there, kind of taking charge. We're down a lot of bodies. Don't really even have a lot of backups in certain positions. Have played the whole game and kind of, didn't blink. You know what I mean? Sometimes guys let's be honest, he plays a physical position, a lot of snaps, long year, and in there to the last snap, playing his tail off, and really appreciate that.
What does that say? The question about him entering the year was his physicality.
Yeah. It is really good, knock on wood. He's been a guy that stayed healthy, and he's a senior, and he's playing really well, and very happy for him and for us. He's been a really steady guy.
This is one of those games that there's always a lot of emotion from both sides. Do you let your guys go out there and have those emotions? You try to calm them? I mean, how do you kind of maintain in a game when lots on the line and it's right?
There's always a fine balance there, right? Last week, Vandy obviously plays with an edge and an attitude, and give them credit. I mean, it's hard not to respect it. You know what I mean? But when you're on the wrong side of it, you don't like it, right? But there's always a fine balance there.
Mark, you played as a kid from Ohio, and you learned about what the rivalry was like in Iowa. And you've coached in games with lots of different rivalry games. How does this one stack up in terms of the fan involvement, the emotion, the history, and all that stuff?
It feels like all the ones I've been involved in. It just really does, because it's important. It's important. This is where I've lived for a long time. As I mentioned, whether you like it or not, I'm a Kentuckian now, right? I've been here as long as anywhere I've been. I left home at 17, haven't been back, so this is home, and I care, and so it's a rivalry that it's important to both teams, and it's important to the state, and it's important to your fans, so it'll be important to our team.
Coach, last week Jamari told us that he's contemplating one day maybe coaching. Is that something that you could see him being successful at?
Jamari Macklin?
Yes.
J-Mac? Yeah, I could see that. He's a guy that, things don't always go as, as perfectly as everybody wants, but, you stay the course, you make a difference, you help as much as you can, and he had some injuries, and then we're, playing some other guys, and, but he's always there, he's always reliable, and he's stepped in games in critical moments and made catches for us in not this past week, but the couple previous to that he did, and he's always staying involved, and that's a great quality.
Willie Rodriguez.
Yeah. Really big game. Yeah, you mentioned both of our players of the game, and Daver and Willie on offense. Both of them played very good football games. Willie made some spectacular catches. Again, played hard. Throughout the entire game. Made some really tough catches. And that's a quarterback's friend when you do some of that, right? So it's good to see him step up.
Any word on Josh? Okay.
Yeah, Josh and Cam Olds will both be out for this game.
Is that Josh Gaddis?
Mm-hmm.